Hello, 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 and welcome to Winning Wednesday. I know you wanted something today. I know you got the prize at something, even if it was a winning smile. And with the masses on all the time now, people can't really tell whether you're smiling or not. So if you're not a smiler, now's the time you could practice your smile behind your mask, because sooner or later, we will take the mask off and we can go back to having a winning smile, a winning attitude, a winning look. But they say that your eyes are the windows to your soul. So remember, your eyes are still exposed, even if your nose and your mouth and everything else is covered up. All right? So find a way to win. Always find a way to win. We're going to review a little bit of last week, and then I just have a few tidbits for you tonight. Not a long session at all, but I'm going to give you a lot of questions to think about. So if you have pen and paper, or perhaps you wrote this down last week, but we're going to talk about the laws of success and the laws of wealth. And I asked last week whether on Sunday, whether you remembered the game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And we went on and talked about the fact that most people don't set their mind to achieving what it is they would love to achieve, be it their career or wealth, or leaving a legacy. We just don't prepare as a people to get the things that we want in life. So we need to see the big picture, get the big picture, and always remember that you should always be learning. Never stop learning. Last week we said that successful people continually learn and adapt. And speaking of adapting, now is the time that you have to adapt, because we talked about all the things that the way we used to do things and the new ways of doing things. And people are ordering groceries online and having them delivered, and people are having their meals delivered from the restaurant. We're going to drive-by weddings. We're going to outdoor funerals. We're going to a lot of different things. We're working from home, going by the office, picking up a few things, and then leaving. I know that's what I do because I do enjoy working from home. And one thing that I missed last week when I was telling you about successful people, billionaire Warren Buffett estimates that he reads at least 100 books on investing before he turned 20 years old. Brain power. And it wasn't knowledge wasted, because he wasn't a billionaire at 20, but he had read a lot of books. And we talked about the fact that most people never read another book after they leave school. So I'm going to share the balance of it. And it says the 7 laws of success. And the first one was set the right goals. And we're going to talk about 10 minutes about goals. Educate yourself, prepare yourself, position yourself, have the knowledge about stuff. You can't know too much. You can read, and then there are things that you read that don't apply to you right now or at that present time. But perhaps you can share it with someone else, or you will need it later. So tuck it away. It said to maintain good health. Nothing is more important than your health, because no matter who you think you are, what you've accomplished, if you don't have good health to enjoy it, then it's not of as much value to you. Drive yourself. Don't stay in park. Life is too short to stay on pause too long. Life is too short to stay on pause too long. So drive yourself. Figure out what your maximum speed is. And don't always stay in the slow lane. When you got someplace to go, act like you got someplace to go. When you got something you want to do, planning like you got something to do. So drive yourself. There's a lot in you that you have not used up yet. Number 5, apply resourcefulness. What is it that I have that could give me extra income, help me set up my emergency fund, some of the stuff that I'm not using? One man's junk is another man's treasure. So resourcefulness when it comes to things that you have, stuff that we buy that we don't use, or resourcefulness is finding a new way to do or to use something that you have come accustomed to using another way. And believe it or not, sometimes when you are very resourceful, you can find ways to save, you can find ways to save time, you can find ways to bless other people in the process. Number 6, to persevere toward your goal. Persevere toward your goals. Don't take your goals lightly. Don't make goals and let the dust take control. Make goals and you work and you take control of your life and your future. And number 7, lucky number 7, is seek God for continued guidance. I've been going through the book of Proverbs, like I said, all month long. And I do this once a year, and I may even do it twice a year. But at least once a year, I go through every single scripture, every single book of Proverbs. And why Proverbs? Because I like to keep things simple. I like to understand. And I know that there's things in the Bible of this person begot that person and came out of that tribe. And I will be the first one to admit I get lost in that. Okay. But in Proverbs, I understand. And it amazes me that so many things back then, when the Bible was being written, are still the principles that we operate by today, and the circumstances and people's mindset, people's attitude, people's evilness, people's jealousy. It was then and it still is now. So seek guidance in everything. And in the book of Proverbs, it tells you how to live, how to have success, and how wealth and success go together. And it's nothing new under the sun. King Solomon was extremely rich, and and Jesus had a treasurer with him. So I don't think it was they were playing penny ante games or the money was just change. There are over 2,350 scriptures in the Bible on success, prosperity, riches, and wealth. And so you should obey the word, but you need to apply it. Thank you, Tay, for jumping on. And so now we're going to talk, and we talked a little bit last week about your woo, and that's WOO, your window of opportunity. How many of you know time doesn't stop because you refuse to move? How many of you know that we all get the same amount of time? How is it that only 5% of the people end up wealthy and the other 95% of us don't? And we have the same amount of time. No extra days, all the days N and Y, and no extra time. It's still 24 hours a day. No extra month. We go January to December every single year. And when the time change, like seasons change, and we have daylight savings time, it may change in a different time zone, or not change in a different time zone. But guess what? In the end, we are all responsible for how we manage our time. So I just want to ask a question. And I know we're talking about finance and about wealth. And so I listened to a motivational speaker. I listened to my mentor. I listened to my coach. And I get inspired by other people talking about the things that they've done, but more importantly, sharing how you can do it as well. And I appreciate every single thing that they bring to the table because, one person is gifted in an area and all of us have talents, but we don't simply use the talents that we have. But I applaud people that use everything they got. They give it 120% all the time. And I appreciate that. And we were talking about this week on Power Start Your Day about the lack of strategic preparation. Now is the time to prepare. And in Proverbs, it talks about the four things that are tiny, but they act in a large way. And one of them is the tiny ant. The ant knows what time it is. Yes, they do. They don't need a clock. They know that the seasons are going to change. And they know that if they don't adapt, there's that word again, adapt and change, that they'll be left out in the cold with nothing to eat. And you know what? That applies to everybody listening to this call. If you don't have a strategic plan, you're planning to be left behind. You're planning to be less successful, if successful at all. So a strategic plan is very important. And the lack of one can cost you more than you can afford to pay. So when building your tower, as they say in Luke 14:28, you add up the cost. So if you're working 40 years, if you're working 50 years, or if you're just in your 10th year, you need to think about the end right now, what you want your end to look like. And so I'm going to start this off by asking the question, what's the conversation around your house about money? Is it the lack of? Is it how to save it? Is it how to grow it? Is it how to make ends meet? What's the conversation like? And what are you doing to change it? Do you have a strategic plan now that you're smack dab in the middle of a pandemic and an economic downturn? And you know what? It's been said that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So if you like better, you better get a plan together, a strategic plan. All right. So do you find yourself coming up short when it comes to your goals? When it comes to your bank account? Do you find yourself coming up short? And if you do, what are you doing about it? It's not going to fix itself. You have to adapt and you have to change. So what you do today is going to determine what your tomorrow will look like. You reap what you sow. What are you sowing? What are you doing with whatever little you have? What gifts are you using or not using? What are you tapping into? And what are you tuning out? All of those things make a big difference in whether you thrive or whether you continue to survive or even do less during this economic downturn. So I decided this week, because this last month I turned 70, and I thought about the time when we were in elementary school and even more so high school. You may have been thinking, well, I'm going to graduate, or when I get to high school, when you were in middle school. But I'll bet you, if you're like me and like some of my friends and classmates, we never thought outside of 1967 or 1968 in terms of where our lives would be 10 years later, 15 years later, 30, 40, 50 years later. I never thought of a year 2000, more or less a year 2020. So what I did, Tay and Rosa and the rest of you that are on the line, I decided this week, since I had the monumental 70th birthday less than 30 days ago, I wanted to map out a 5-year plan. Have you ever done a 5-year plan? And just put down on paper where you want to be 5 years from now, what you want to be doing, who you want to be doing it with. What will life look like for you 5 years from now? Now, I know enough to say, God willing. My mother always say, I'll talk to you tomorrow, God willing. And so you plan, he knows your plan, and he can see the end from the beginning. So we're just trusting that we will be alive, well, and kicking. And if we're going to be doing that, we may as well go ahead and dream right now and write it down on paper. And if you want to draw some pictures or cut out some photos out of a book and make your dream book for the next 5 years, do that. So my question would be, have you ever thought about what you'll be doing 5 years from now? Year 2025. In year 2025, you might be 50. You may have just turned 40. You may be turning 65 and becoming a senior citizen. Or, like me, you'll be 75. So, what do you want life to look like for you then? To those of you who are on the line, if you are in your 20s, 5 years from now, do you want to have already started your family, have 1 or 2 children? Those of you who are in your 50s and 60s, or would you like to have grandchildren by then? See your grandson or granddaughter off to college? Some of you may not have been married yet. By year 2025, you want to be married. It's okay to dream and to plan. And 5 years is not too far out to plan. So 5 years from now, will you finally be getting paid what you're really worth? Are you going to find that dream job and be in it 5 years from now? Are you going to make a plan? No excuses. Say, God willing, I will be doing this, that, or the other. Show me your plan. Don't tell me about your plan. Show me your plan, your written plan. Show it to me. And I'll bet you, if you put the time in, if you work strategically, you can check off some things off that bucket list in 2025. And that may seem a long way out, because like I said, when we were in high school, we never thought of outside of 19 whatever. In year 2000, we just, when people got married in year 2000, things happened, and things that we thought were going to stop, the clocks, the computers, all those things. But here we are now in year 2020. That was 20 years ago. And Your woo that I talked about, your WOO, your window of opportunity. What will happen if you don't make plans for the next 5 years? Who will be affected? What happens if you do make those plans and you have 80% success and 20% that does not happen? You'll be a lot further along than if you don't make the plan at all. So, what's on your bucket list? What is your dream vacation? Where you want to go? And if you plan to go there by 2025, break it down into small chunks. You identify the place, you identify the cost, you identify if you are going with someone else, and make sure that everybody knows the plan, knows the strategic plan. If you're going to drive to a certain point, then you're going to fly. Or if you're going to drive to a certain point and then you're going to sail, hopefully, prayerfully, we will be able to do all of the above by 2025 and far sooner than that. But make a plan, because if you don't have a plan, you know, when you roll out of bed every day, you should have a plan. You should know what you want to do. Now, there's some days when you call them, days that you just stay in your pajamas all day, or when you don't want to be bothered, or when you just lie in bed and read, or sit out on the porch, or go to the park, or do something fun. But for the most part, successful people wake up with a plan. They wake up, they shake themselves off, and they maybe glance at their day timer or glance for the day. But for the most part, they know what it is that they're going to be doing. And most times, they don't just sit up, shake themselves off, and lie back down and hit the snooze button. Winners don't whine. Winners don't wing it. Winners work it. And so it's Winning Wednesday. And I want you to find you a quiet place and think about some things that you would love to get accomplished. Now, may I suggest, break it down by, say, on September 9th, 2021, I want to do this, that, or the other. On the following year, I want to have accomplished this. So if your goal for, say, and I usually break my goals out into career, spiritual, personal, financial, and family related. And so get those 4 or 5 categories to keep your life in balance. The things that your why you want to do something, and how will it feel, and who will benefit from it once that thing gets accomplished. And remember, if you don't have a plan, who will not benefit or who will suffer because you did not have a strategic plan? So, windows of opportunities, they come and they go. But remember, we all have the same amount of time to operate in. So if you have a window of 5 years that you're trying to, say, accomplish a financial goal, you can't wait until year 2024 and start pedaling and start trying to pick up speed. Start in the first year and gradually grow to, say, if you're trying to save $10,000 and you got to do 500 a quarter or 500 every 6 months in order to get there, and then count on some surplus. Do you get a tax refund? then that can help you reach your financial goal. But don't wait till year 2024 to try to make up and pick up traction. Start now. So I'm going to leave you with this. If you don't make a plan, who's going to be affected? And if you do make a plan, who's going to benefit? All right. So that's what I have for you tonight. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 o'clock for Sunday's Best. And if there are those of you on the line or on the call or on the video that have not read a copy of my book, The Million Dollar Producer, My Journey from the Cotton Field to the Capital, please do. And if you have read it, I want you to take time to put something about the book, even if you've done it once before. There are a lot of business principles in this book. This journey had a lot of weight on it, but it also offered a lot of freedom. So the principles that you find in this book will help guide you, along with reading the books in Proverbs. They will help guide you to success. So go to my website, Nancy Opens Doors, and see what we have coming up. We do have a boot camp, and we do have some other things that we'll be telling you about, some online courses. So stay tuned, stay connected. Have a good night. Have a good life. In fact, have $1 million life. Success.